Hey guys, in this video we're going to be painting the cardinal like winter scene, the birds on the branches. So to get started, have your canvas out. Make sure you have paper towels. I've got a roll over to the side there in case I need more. Jar of water and brushes, different sizes. I've got these 3. You're also going to need a Sharpie for this one to do some outlining, just so that we don't lose our lines and can easily paint through, so we don't have to dodge every little nook and cranny when we do our background. And then the paint colors we're using in this is the white, black, red, and this burnt orange color. The easiest way to get your paint out of your little tubs and onto your plate, I like to just take a scoop with my butter knife, and then you can just like slide it off onto the edge of your plate. And then it's easy to wipe on a towel to get clean, to get the next color. That way you're not mixing all your paints together in your tubs. You're keeping them nice and clean and fresh for your next painting. And then make sure that your lids are clicked down. That one wasn't. So just make sure they're sealed up as best as possible. And yeah, let's get started. Let me just double check that I hit record. I did. So first step is going to be just using our Sharpie and outlining. I'll do all my branches. And it's best if you kind of go on the inside of the line. That way they don't get too thick. And if it's not perfect, that's fine. Nothing's perfect. You can go around your bird. Let's just do it. We are going to be putting some shadowing in, so it should be able to cover that line. I'll make sure that it does now that I've done it. I'm going to leave his little beak alone. Branches aren't perfect, so don't worry if yours get a little funky. It's fine. And let's see, we got this guy here. The leg. And I just move my canvas around, because if this Sharpie marker isn't all the way dry and I drag my hand across it, it will smear. And it's just easier for me to be on a certain side of the board while working. And there we go. Let's go around this little foot. And there we go. Now we'll start with our background. We're going to be using a lot of gray, different shades. We'll start with a light gray, and I'm gonna do a loose mix. I'm not gonna like stir it till it's completely solid. So just a nice scoop of white, because it's gonna be the whole background. I mean, minus the birds, and we will be painting, excuse me, through the limbs a little bit. So if you have a bigger canvas, you're obviously going to need a lot more white over there. I probably do even on my smaller canvas. But I am going to be like streaking white through it as well. And then just a little bit of black. I'm going to start fairly light. Always make it a little darker. It doesn't take much added in. A little bit darker. So it's pretty light. You don't want to be too dark to start because we are going to be streaking in some darker gray for like some trees back in the distance. So I'm going to make a little area of that just a little bit darker. Maybe just this little portion over here. So I've got this a little bit darker. Okay, so you see I've got this light and then slightly darker. They're both quite light. So I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna do nice long strokes. And while I work, while that's wet, I'll be adding in bits of white. You don't need to clean out your brush in between. You just you want the background streaky, like different shades of grays. You can go through the branches. Just make sure your paint is being laid on thin. If you put it on super thick, you're not gonna be able to see any of that, and you'll be on your own putting in branches. I kind of even like lift my brush a little bit when I'm in those spaces. So like I don't go all the way through. So some gray, maybe some white. Just kind of alternate between white and your different shades of gray. Because you don't want it to just be one flat shade. You want some light areas and some dark areas. And you want to alternate while you work. You don't want to do all your light and then try to get your darks put in, because then it won't blend. Your paint will be dry. And you don't want to over blend either. If you go back and forth too many times, then the color mixes on the canvas and just all becomes the same color. And I am keeping my brush strokes in all the same direction. I'm going nice long back and forth, up and down rather. I mean, depending on which way your canvas is sitting, but from top to bottom. I mean, right now it's side to side, but the top of the canvas to the bottom of the canvas. all filled in. A few little spots that are a little funky. Now I'm gonna add in a little bit more gray, like darker gray. So I'm just gonna take my dirty brush, nice scoop of black, darken one of my piles. Doesn't really matter which, just so long as you get it darker than what we've been using so far. Don't want it super dark, but noticeably darker than what we've had on there already. So I'm gonna just kind of scrape out the extra so that my bristle, this is a janky brush. It's kind of splayed out. The bristles don't lay flat. And I'm just gonna run up through nice long and just kind of create some trees in the background. Yeah, that brush is terrible. Using my smaller brush just because I know that it's not terrible. Just putting some lines. Maybe I'll use this one. I'm gonna use my great big one. It's because I know I can get a thin line once I get it paint on the bristles. I know I can get this to lay nice and flat. There we go. I'm just gonna kind of put just some lines up through. You can use a little bit lighter gray too. Maybe even a little bit of white. Just don't want to overblend. You want them to really kind of look like trees in the distance. Just a couple limbs. So about like that. Doesn't have to be anything perfect. If you want some thinner ones, use some skinnier brush. I like to put a little bit of water in there. And really get some skinny ones in there so we could put some limbs. And just go right through the other objects. Because we'll be painting on top. Getting the birds and the branches filled in. Something weird happened there. Just do it until you're satisfied, until you've got, you know, enough going on back there. I like it. Next, let's paint the branches. We'll just be doing them in black. You do want to make sure all of your little gray marks and things are dry. I'm just gonna blast mine quick with the blow dryer. getting blew away. Take a towel over here on the floor. We don't get that. Fine. Got it. My little cheat sheet. All right, so black paint, small brush, medium brush, whatever you're comfortable using, depending on the size of your canvas as well. Branches are bigger on the bigger canvas. I've got the little 8x10. I'll go in and just with some black paint. I really wish I had a better medium brush here. My life would be easier. I gotta fight with constantly. So just plain black paint, a brush of your choosing. You're gonna come in and just get all your branches painted. I'm gonna try to get the majority with this bigger brush, but I think I'm gonna have to switch out because it's got so many stray hairs poking every which way. Make sure you do get like the Sharpie line covered. Even if you kind of miss a spot here and there, that's okay because it's really hard to tell that that was Sharpie. You gotta switch, unfortunately. Just take your time. I'm gonna go around his little foot the best I can. Kind of a weird little shape in there. You're getting all the big globs. In smaller places, it's a lot easier to get globs. It's hard to judge how much paint you need for the small spaces. In time, the more you do it, the better you get at judging how much you kind of need to scoop up on your brush. If you do end up getting too much, just kind of clean your brush off, wipe it on your plate, wipe it on your towel, and then you can just kind of scoop up any excess and then just wipe it on a towel or your plate. I do it once in a while. Here's my branch. With this, it comes forks up here. If you can't see, sometimes it's easier to just kind of go to where you can see where your branches are, get them filled in, and kind of try to piece it together from there. This one's got to attach. I think there's like a fork in it here. Joss. Sorry, the dog is sniffing around in the trash. She's being naughty. We got this guy. I can see it up at the top a little bit easier. I'll just start where I can see it. Not really sure where it goes from here. I'll just get it attached. let's work on this one. Trying to go around with little feeties. Oh, I missed a spot in there. I can see it clear as day now. A little spot of background. I'll just go in with a little gray later. Be careful you're not resting your hand on wet paint. Very easy to do. And I just like to check every once in a while. It's not so bad if you just like rest your hand in it. The part that sucks is when you rest your hand in it and then rest your hand somewhere else and then you get a big old blob of some color you don't need there. I do it all the time. This painting is very similar to one I've done in the past. The other one I've done that's got the two little cardinals, it's there's branches and what have you, but there's a fence at the bottom. That one's really cute too. Looking. And let's see, we've got the rest of this one over here. Let's flip her over. While you're working, your brush starts to get like wider. It seems like you can't get as thin of a line. It's probably because it starts to get loaded up with paint and it makes the bristles real full and fluffy. Just take a second and just clean it out and start with a nice fresh clean brush. You'll get nice skinny lines again. go. I think that's all of them. I'm not seeing any more Sharpie line anywhere. Just gonna clean up down here where I used my big brush. That was a nightmare. And I gotta remember to fill in that little gray spot, my background that I missed. So when you do finish up painting your branches black, just to kind of take a look around, you may find little areas between things that you've maybe have missed with your background. I'm just gonna take a little bit of my gray, just very carefully, just get that filled in with a little gray, just so that it's not staring at me bright white. Next, I'm gonna paint my birds. They're gonna be just red. Now I painted over his little foot. He had a little foot here. Oops, we'll fix it. So just probably should use my smaller brush because there's small spots, but do my big areas with my bigger brush, just red paint. I'm just gonna get a nice coat of red. Just gonna need a couple of coats. Especially since I painted gray stripe through him. It's gonna be a bugger to get covered. You can always put a little bit of white on there. I'll show you because I'm probably gonna need to do it. So if you've painted a dark gray stripe, not really a stripe, but like a tree from the background, if you've got a lot of dark going through your bird and the red just doesn't seem to be covering it very well. Quick trick, because we gotta do a couple coats anyway. I'm just gonna take some white. It's better if you haven't already painted it red, but it doesn't matter. You're just gonna go over where that line is, because I'm sure you could see. Still kind of can see it. And don't worry that it's pink right now. I'm going to kind of brush it out because I don't want it showing up too plainly underneath my bird. And let's see, on this one, he's got a little bit of some dark spots. So white, pink, whatever color's on your brush. I don't care that it's pink because it's going to be painted red, and the pink is not going to hurt the red top coat. If anything, it will help. I'm just blocking out these dark areas. So when I do my coat of red, it's gonna show up nice and not have weird dark spots. There, we're good. I'm gonna do the top of his little head over here. And quickly redo this one if I can really see it. Okay. Now we want to make sure our white, pink, whatever color we got going on is nice and dry. Just gonna give it a quick blast. We can go in with our red. Might as well just use my small brush. My medium brush is a nightmare. just red paint. We're gonna get him all filled in. And he's still gonna need a couple of coats. Especially now that mine's got different varying levels of color on it. So I can kind of see where it threw that branch through there, but it's way less noticeable now. It's just fine. And I'll be adding some shadowing on there as well. You'll never know. You might know, but it's not gonna stand out like a sore thumb. No one else will notice. Got the first coat on. Before I do the second coat, I want to make sure it's dry. This one's fine. Just gonna go back in and do a second coat. And this one's dry. Okay, so now we're going to do the shadowing. I'm going to take a little bit of black, and I'll clean out my brush because I'm going to be mixing with red. A little bit of black, and quite a bit of red. This is a little bit darker. And I'm going to go in under his little wing here. Curve around the shape of his body. On the top of his head. I'm gonna go anywhere I see Sharpie also, because I don't want to see the Sharpie. I don't have to worry about this one there because it's going to be black. A little bit up under his belly. And down on the underside of the tail, just under the branch. Now my other bird, I'm gonna come down the side of his body here. And then you don't need a bunch of paint on your brush. I think I got a little bit much there, so now my shadow is a little bit thicker than I would necessarily want. And I just kind of wipe the excess of that darker red off, pick up just plain red, and it's going right over top of it. Just smush it around. Okay, now back to my dark red. It's right up and under his tail feather here. Kind of leave a space. You might want to make that a little bit darker. I'll go back later with darker red. And up on the side of his head. And the side of his body. And a little bit darker red. Take a little bit more black. Just a little bit. And right in here, I want this to be a little bit darker. And on the side of his body. And next we'll do the black that's around the beak. Just my little brush, a little bit of black. And then I'm gonna go right over the eyeballs. I went over the tip of his beak with the gray. I'll put that back in with white. And the other one. And then we got that part done. We need a little bit of white still showing. When it's dry, it's easier to tell. You can just go back in and put a little bit more black on and just fill in those little pieces of the canvas that like to be stubborn and show through. I'm gonna touch up this guy's beak. I'm just gonna reshape it on the end. So it just needs to be a little bit longer coming out. And this guy needs his foot back. We'll put that back. If the leg comes down here, I'm just gonna go ahead and paint it white. And then just kind of give him some little weird toes. And I'll touch up this one. And these. So while that's drying, let's put snow in the background. I'm gonna pile it on the branches. So a little bit of white, just gonna scribble it on. This one is in front of the other one, so just go right across. One here. So pretty much anywhere snow would naturally just kind of gather. This is also a good way to hide parts of your branches if they got a little too fat and you think they look a little goony. You can just layer snow on there. It'll hide them. Let's not forget this big old crotch here. Touch up my beak a little more. Okay, now I'm going to paint the beak and the feet orange. So just my little brush, just a little bit of this orange color. Get his beak filled in. If you overlap a little bit onto the black, it creates a shadow. So it kind of looks like that I intentionally put a shadow there. There's just the black shining through it. It works quite well. This is just kind of a blobby shape. I'll put some shadows in there later to help make it look like individual toes. And this scrawny little leg. Look at these little feet. And again, these are just kind of like weird, round, circly, ovally shapes. And I'll kind of make them look more toe-ish later. Get his beak. And shadowy parts. I'm gonna take a scoop of black with some of this orange. Kind of turns this icky brownish color. Perfect. And on the inside of the leg, a little bit of a shadow. I'm just gonna kind of go on the sides of the foot. We put little lines in this one. Lines in that one. I'm gonna do the bottom side of this beak. Just a little bit on the bottom. And then where it already looks like a shadow, add a little bit more. So I'm gonna add a little bit more snow here. I missed some. Right between them. Why not? I'm just gonna put snowflakes all over. So just white paint, little circles, and brushes. I need to scoop out some white paint from that area so I'm not grabbing not white paint. And just little snowballs all over. If you want, you can put them on the birds. I'm not going to. Makes sense that there would be. And then lastly, I'm just gonna add little eyes. I guess I'm just gonna use a dark gray. So black, just a little bit of white. So it's really dark. I should probably try to make it into a little pile so I can use the back end of my brush. So I want them teeny tiny. And I can just put a little dab in there. They look crazy. It'll dry a little darker and be a little less obvious. But that is it. If you want to go back and touch up any areas, feel free. I feel like maybe this shadow in here could be a little bit darker. I'm just going to take a little bit of some darker red. A little bit more shadow in there. Maybe a little bit darker under the tail. Add a little bit of red. And finished. I'm just gonna sign my name. I like to add a little water into my paint when I sign. This makes it flow better, easier to get it all in one swoop. And done. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.